Good morning, everybody. This is Sean Redmond from Savision, and we're about getting ready to get started with our presentation this morning. What's going to be happening in today's presentation is I'm going to be doing an intro to Savision and its products, and specifically with Live Maps 8.3 release. We're going to be just going to make sure that everyone can see my screen. And at this point in time, what we'd like to do is begin with an intro to Savision. What I'm going to be doing is giving an overview of the IT maturity model, and giving an idea of where your company may be fitting along those lines. And specifically, we're going to be looking at live maps and with new features with the 8.3 release. At this time as well, I'm going to be doing a demo. And specifically, then we'll have some time at the end of the session to do a Q&A session with you. Having this to have this as interactive and possible, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having polls. That way we can give some idea. These information can be available to you when you look at the presentation after the fact. So at this time, what we'll do is we'll put a poll question up, and we'll give everybody about 45 seconds to a minute to answer it, and then we'll continue with the presentation. So our first poll question. So we'll launch that poll question. Should be coming up on your client screens right now. We're seeing some votes coming in. Okay, we're going to close up that polling question for this period of time. We're going to move on. Looking at Savision and Live Maps products specifically, what we are is a dashboarding solution with SCOM. We have over 10 years experience in providing these types of business service monitoring solutions for SCOM. We have quite an extensive customer range from a range of industries with over 800 customers in those areas. And specifically, we are number one with service monitoring with types of getting this type of information into the hands of the parties, the people that need this information most. What we do is we have a unified monitoring management system that integrates itself within the SCOM environment, and as well with Live Maps, we can look at sort of enhancing the ITSM integration. So if we're looking at integrating products such as with ServiceNow, BMC, Remedy. And so we're going to carry on now and look here specifically. Here's a sampling of some of the customer lists that we have with our products that depend upon our products to give them this type of monitoring information that they need in their environments. So we can have this. These slides too will be available afterwards. Specifically with the IT security model from Gartner, what we're looking at is a lot of companies can see themselves in a situation where it's understandable that they would want to be doing monitoring of services within their environment, but it's along the lines of sort of saying, well, where are we at right this point in time and where do we want to end up being? So with this, what we can do is we have a situation where companies can start out in this area where they have awareness. Essentially, we have awareness to say that we want to be able to have information of our services and whether those types of critical IT functions are available to our customers and people within our organizations. We don't really have any metrics or knowledge on how we're going to do this. Essentially, then what we can have organizations start to go to is they go to a model where they acknowledge that this is something that we want to do. We want to provide these types of metrics to our stakeholders within our organizations. We want to track essentially the number of outages that could potentially happen, but essentially what we're looking at is that organizations would be relying on people within their organizations such as domain IT people, infrastructure people, to be able to communicate to management when that they're having issues. So essentially, then what organizations could then move along to is that you're looking into a proactive type of environment, whereby rather than responding to situations as they happen, we have a situation where we can sort of monitor it ahead of time. And not only are we looking at sort of the availability of services and such, but we can get into the specifics of looking at actual transactions going through database systems, so front-end applications and such, so we can get this type of information, or people are looking to achieve this type of monitoring with this. As well, what we're seeing is that with a proactive approach, you have sort of a standards base where people are having a cross-platform. They may have multiple monitoring systems, but it's a matter of trying to bring that in. What organizations could then strive to mature to is they're looking at whereby we're sort of aligning our services and ideally to have the overall transaction, the availability of that service, and looking at items such as service level agreements on those services. We want to provide to senior management, board of directors and such, the ability to say that our services were available at a certain 99.9% of the time. We want to be able to communicate that information and put it IT in a business context, so that rather than saying that we are keeping our alerts down, what we can say is that people are looking to have it so that they have availability of those services across forms. And it's more looking at it from a services focus rather than looking at sort of an object type of level at an IT level. Where the ultimate goal is to be at a business partner level, whereby they have business service intelligence and they have targets that can be communicated. Essentially, what we're looking at is that IT teams are being able to bring forward innovations in such as service monitoring to be able to have continuous improvement of those processes and going forward with that. And what we can sort of then make available to you is that we can sort of see finding out where you find your current organization. So at this point in time, what we'll do is we'll ask people to sort of take an online utility this quiz to see basically where they are at this. So we can, I'll pause for a couple seconds to give you a chance to put that information in there. Okay, with that, we'll move on now. Live maps. Essentially what we're looking to do is that we have service-oriented monitoring and dashboard solutions for Microsoft System Center Operations Manager. What we have is we have the ability to provide feature-rich dashboards and the ability to be able to put business service context on services within your organization. Using a wide range of tools, what we have is with the ability to view dashboards with HTML5 content base so that you can view them from standard computer screens, tablets, or smartphones, and with that you can have it so that giving it the visibility to your services along these lines. So what we're going to look at is some of these examples as well. Challenges that organizations have had with regards to business service monitoring and specifically with object level monitoring of IT is that they see that we have different players that are looking at the sort of context of what's going on with regards to the services that they provide with IT. So what we have is we have a CIO that's essentially looking at are my services available, are the services available to my consumers of those services. We have people that are responsible, service owners themselves, that are responsible to upper organization levels to be able to bring service level agreements to the management teams and be able to see what kind of impact that there could potentially be with changes within the organizations. We have an IT manager role that would be looking at not only what kind of capacity planning would I need to have to be able to expand services over a period of time. So for example, if I have looking at basically making sure that the services there are available, that they have the hard drive, the memory, the capacity, the performance capabilities to be able to continue to provide those services levels that I want for my upper management teams. We have the help desk teams that are basically looking at responding to issues as they may arise within the environment, so that, for example, if the availability of a service is down, we can see that IT teams support teams want to be able to get access to the information and notify and track the appropriate information going to people within the team. Engineers also too will be wanting to drill in and sort of find out the specifics of what's going on, so that if a service becomes unavailable for a particular reason or an object within that service becomes unavailable, to be able to provide those engineers the ability to drill down and get down to a root cause analysis of what's going on with the actual services. So at present, what the issue is, what a lot of people struggle with, is that it's hard to looking at certain screens to be able to understand the context of alerts. That meaning that I have 1,000 alerts that show up on my screen. Which one is the one that I need to deal with first? Also, too, looking at sort of a root cause analysis, meaning that if one alert has spawned 50 more, it would be able to get a good context to know which one should I deal with first, and to have those other ones sort of manage themselves as a result of being root cause being addressed. At times, too, we want to be able to make sure we give the type of information for the appropriate consumer of that information. A CIO may not necessarily need to know about specifics, but performance counters on hard drives, but they would just basically want to know, well, what is the impact with that? So being able to give this type of information to the appropriate consumers of that. So what we can do, we're going to move on here, and essentially what we're looking at with these tools now is we have the ability to be able to have a lot of these types of dashboards and such. So simplified authoring, so whereby I can come in, I can create some services and create those types of views and informations for that. So I can create an executive type of dashboard with that. Also, too, for such as infrastructure teams, they may be interested in seeing a correlation of alerts and notifications that are coming through. Also, too, we're looking at CMDB integration. So there, if I have created services in ServiceNow and have the ability to have that information being brought into the lab map solution systems, and also to being able to access this information about my rich dashboards from remote locations, and also seeing it on different types of screens themselves. Okay. When it comes to actually mapping out business services within organizations, what we like to take an approach is to keep it at a sort of a four-tier type of level. Essentially what we do is we have a service itself and the information associated with that service, and that includes what other services it may depend upon. And to underneath of that, and this is a fundamental component of it, we're looking at end user perspective. So essentially looking at a service, I would want to know whether the availability of that service is there for my end users. Can the end users log on, continue, enter a transaction, complete a transaction? That is something that we keep a track on. Next, what we're looking at is we're looking at an application component of that business service. So this essentially is be looking at the software components that make up our business service. This could be something such as a database running on an environment. I can have a web front end. There could be an application server as well that are actually carrying through the service level transactions. Underneath that, what we're looking at is the infrastructure components of this business service. So these are the servers, the hardwares, the network switches, and the information along those areas that would be sort of making up our business service. So what we're looking to do is to be able to have the idea of what dependencies do we have for this business service, and being able to sort of capture those and being able to present those to the appropriate parties. Looking what we have available to you are these types of dashboards and the ability to drill down into these dashboards. What you're noticing over in the far top left is what we call a service overview dashboard, whereby I have a listing of all my services, and you'll see along the top there that we have the service name along the left, and then we have the individual perspectives as we come along those, and we can drill into those a little bit more as we come. When we have a listing of our services there, what we can do is we can see that you can break down and get into individual component maps of your services to give the appropriate teams or the appropriate consumers of this information access to the information that's most important to them. So it could be that we have infrastructure teams that may want to drill down and get into individual infrastructure components related to it. Or I could have a CIO type of or manager type of level want to know the availability. Can users simply log on and create transactions? Okay, with that, so what two that we can have is you can drill down into the service and you can see information such as service level incidents, types of information is being collected, and you can have this and you can continue down into it. From an infrastructure component as well, it gives us the ability to get right into the actual SCOM Health Explorer and view and interact with those alerts. We're going to take another minute right now to offer another poll question up, and I'll pause for about a minute to give everybody a chance to fill that in. We're going to be closing the poll in 5 seconds. So, on our demo environment, what you're noticing here is here's what I mentioned of. This is the services overview dashboard, and what I want to sort of bring to your attention is a couple of areas. Megan had mentioned that we have the actual service name here, and what we do is we have the actual service collection. All along the top, what we have are our perspectives, the end user perspective. So this is an indication of what's the overall performance. Can users log on and interact with our business service? Moving through this column, what we have here, this is the collection of our application perspective. Within the application perspective, we call those things such as software components, database, web server, application service and such, the actual software components of that service. Moving to this column, what we have here is the actual infrastructure components related to this business service. So this would be including hardware components, servers, hard drives, network switches, along those lines. Moving over here, this is an indication where we have an SLA or service level agreements that can be monitored, and so it's monitored with a business service. So I can set different thresholds of SLA for a particular business service, and also have alert status notify me when I'm in breach of some of those strict targets. The last column over here is an indication where I can set up associations or related services. So an example would be that Exchange does depend upon Active Directory. I could have a related service with Exchange to have it so that it is related to Active Directory. In the event that Active Directory would become unavailable, our Exchange teams monitoring would also then want to be able to be aware of that. What I would do is that now when I have an example of this is where I can drill into the particular service. I'm getting an actual overview of the actual components and perspectives therein. So what I'm seeing in my demo environment is that I'm having an issue with my order entry service. I look along my end user components and I see that I have my end users in America, Asia Pacific, and Europe are offline. What I can do is I can drill in to get a type of idea of specifically what's going on with this, to get an idea. And from this particular map, what I can see is that that those users are unavailable to actually interact with our business service. I can drill down further and get more types of information, what specifically is going on. And it's here with the integration into SCOM, I have the ability to come and see actually right at a Health Explorer type of level specifically what's going on with this particular object. Coming back to the services overview, I can drill in again. I'll go into the order entry services as well, and we can actually go into the types of area here specifically within the application component. When I click into the application components, what I can see is I can get more types of mapping and layout capabilities here to sort of see, well, what are the components that's working? Right now I'm seeing that the websites for my service, my order entry service, are up and running. I'm looking at the components having to do with the databases, services, and such here, and they're all aligned. Components specifically having to do with specific database application databases that are running there, they're also online. What I'm noticing from this particular screen, though, is I'm having an issue with my external payment provider. So that's giving me a quick insight, and then teams can respond appropriately to be able to make sure that they can resolve that issue. From this, for example, if I wanted to be able to create, I can from here as well create a static URL to which I can send to a upper management person. I could make that static URL essentially so I can make a non-drill down so that they can see the summary level of information from here without being able to drill down into that, just giving more visibility into that. When I come back to here as well, I have the ability with live maps, we have the integration within SCOM. So specifically when I can click from here, I can interact with the actual alert level details as they are within SCOM. So if I see an alert, my team sees an alert, I can close the alert, update the alert itself, and have that information carried through and updated within SCOM. What I've also learned how to take to do is that we're looking at the Live Maps portal and specifically seeing the output of us creating services. I want to go into, quickly go into the authoring console, the Live Maps authoring console, and look at how it is that we can create some of these business services. So within here, I have the ability, firstly, to create what we have as out-of-box services within our Savision, so you can get up and running in a really short period of time, say with like 15 minutes or so, that I can have some of these business services up and running in place for items such as Link, Active Directory, Exchange 2013, and include some of these services so that they're up and running really quickly for us. As well, what I can do is then I can create a service, and with that, when I create a service, I can come through and I just essentially give it a name. So I'll just call this sample service samples 3. And when we come to actually create those business services that are being stored as management packs into your SCOM environment, I can have a new management pack created, or I can actually bundle it into an existing management pack. When I click Next, I'm going through the wizard whereby I'm selecting the components that make up my perspectives. So firstly, I'm going to be starting out with my end user perspectives. With this pull-down list, I have the ability to pull from SCOM any types of objects that can be collected within there. So even as well as I can be quite detailed getting into here and seeing what any type of information that is being stored within SCOM can be included into my perspectives. What I've done too is I've created an empty service in advance so that we can go through it. Essentially with these wizards, I would then come through and see, be able to pick these components at the beginning. As well, I'd be able to, once the service has been created itself, I can come through and have them laid out here to do some other types of edits or updates that I so see fit. From here as well, what I have the ability is to pull these components, drag and drop, and include them into this. From here as well, what I can do is I can change the type of ways to which the information is being presented. If I may want to change it to its display name rather from here. Within the application components, another powerful feature set is the ability to have dynamic membership rules in place. There could be examples where servers come and servers go, and what we'd want to do is be able to have that so that the business services themselves stay dynamic, so that when new servers come online or databases come online, we have them so that they're automatically included into our service name. I could, for example, create a dynamic rule that follows a sort of a naming format, and just keep it simple. I'll keep it like with the idea of exchange. I can add that expression, and I could find my matches results. Essentially, within my demo environment, it found this one server object. If another server were to come along and have that same name, it would be included into this business service. I could include that object into my application perspective. When I come to the infrastructure perspective, the same capabilities whereby I can choose objects on any types of range that are being collected within SCOM. So I could just drag individual objects into this specific perspective. As well, what we have here is the ability to set service level monitorings on this particular service. So I can enable monitoring and set my target thresholds for that particular service. I could also choose to set business hours on that, whereby if I'm not, if the service doesn't need to be available on weekends, I could exclude it from the actual SLA target so that weekend maintenance doesn't take away from it doesn't impact my business as SLA targets. From here, so as well, I can choose the visibility and the interaction based on existing SCOM laws that you have within your organizations. So I can choose how it is that people can interact with the actual services once they've been created. As well as this is a section whereby I can control how those particular roll up, so that if there's a state change in the infrastructure, do I have it roll up and affect the actual business service as a whole? I could exclude that if I so wanted to. It's something that is a choice. Typically what we see is that people include all of these types of things to roll up into the service. What we're seeing here is this is where I would come and set the availability, or excuse me, related services, so that if, for example, this particular service depended upon another service that I created, such as a web transaction or a payment transaction, I could include that as well. Or if I wanted to include, say, Active Directory, I could simply select Active Directory and say here, but my services depends upon it. Some of the feature-rich types of dashboards that we have available, as we saw within the order entry, and I drilled down into it, what we have is the ability here to have sort of a Visio type of diagram where I could come and select different types of objects to include on that. And from within here, just simply drag and drop to include it, and I can change the properties of that. This is a Visio in terms of the background, where you can have your background colors, modify and change your objects on your screen as they see fit. As well, so we have these types of situations where I have the capability to find a particular transaction type and be able to include that and include that into my particular diagram and have that available. Okay. I'm going to take this point in time to offer another poll question to everybody. So have everybody have their screens ready, please. Okay, we're not going to quite yet. At this point in time, I want to sort of take a look at some of those new features within Live Maps. So let's bring that screen back up.
Okay, so start off with saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I know we have quite a range of people on from different time zones. I am Chris Millay, the support manager here, and we will go ahead and begin. We're just going to go over some of the new features for 8.3. I will show you some of those in a quick demo, and then we'll go into a question and answer period. So quick rundown of the new features. So there's a new alerts widget. Several people have asked for an alerts list, and that's what we're providing. We're giving you a top-end performance. We actually provide this in two forms, a top-end for just computer-related stuff, and then a top-end advanced. So if you're wanting to pull out information like SQL connections or website performance or things of that nature. We've added a small change to our custom SQL query. So we've always had the ability to show it in a table form. Well, now, just in case you're going to return something as a single value, then we'll show it as a much larger number. We've got a new kind of look to ourselves. So I'm sure all of you are used to the standard blue that we have in all of our portal dashboards. Well, now we've kind of added a couple themes. So there's a dark theme and a light theme. I'll show both of those. And then there's an override CSS file. So now you can actually go in and edit some of the CSS yourself and add some custom colors. I'll show a little bit of that on here. The home page itself has changed. We'll go through. You'll see one column missing and a few things have moved around on you to provide some quick access into different parts of the views that you're after. We've added the SLA ability to go back and look at previous months into the portal. This is something that was in our extensions or in our older web console. Well, now it's back and it's in the portal itself. And then a new feature that allows you to do a group import. So if you've already created a group within SCOM and would just like to make that a view or a dashboard within Live Maps, then we have that ability. So instead of trying to recreate it from scratch. So we'll go into a demo here. First things first, here is the new front page. You'll notice that we've got the columns that are in the lower section have kind of moved around on you. The custom and summary dashboards. This is any of your live map views and any of the custom or the summary dashboards, the widget-based dashboards that are in here. So they're kind of lumped together, but we provided a quick search to allow you to get to any of them. So if I pull up a list, then I can go directly into a computer list from here. So that's one thing. And now we did the same thing with our services. Instead of kind of putting the live map views and services all under service management, we've split them off and separated them out. But now you have a listing of all of your services directly. So now it makes it easier for a direct access. Or if I want to, I can do a quick search and just pull up services that match that particular search. So we're trying to make it a little easier on you as far as the ability to gain a little bit faster access to the different parts of the portal itself. You'll also notice that some of those same things are up here. So you can do the custom dashboards, which is just a listing of all of these. Instead of just being the top 100, it'll show all of them. And then the summary dashboards are your widget-based dashboards. Those are the ones that you can go directly into those features. So the next thing I want to highlight, and I'm going to do these a little out of order just because of the way they kind of flow. So we've added some themes. So here's your default blue. Well, now we actually have a darker theme, which is actually my personal favorite. It makes the colors kind of pop out, and you're able to see these things. We also have a lighter theme. Some people like a lighter theme, so we can do that. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on the dark theme just because it's, like I said, my personal favorite. And then we'll kind of go from there. So as you can see, it's changed up a bit. Makes it easier to see in a lot of ways. So we did provide an override CSS file. So if you're in your Live Maps Unity portal folder and then under content, there is an override CSS file. And this allows you to come through and actually change certain things. And I've already kind of pre-populated a couple items in here just to note the difference. So if you'll hold on just 1 second, let me save this. And I will force a refresh on myself. And you'll notice I've kind of changed the top bar into an orange color. So you do have the capability of now changing some of the different colors and aspects on your own. There's some different parts of this that we'll go through, and you'll be able to see, or you'll be able to look at the different parts of the CSS file and edit those as you see. Let me change this back. And then I'm back to normal. Okay, so a couple other things that wasn't on the list. So you'll notice down here at the bottom that I'm actually showing the number of views that we're using. We also have a license count in the settings. So you're actually able to go into the licenses overview. We're probably going to expand this a little bit more to give you a little bit more detail. Right now it's just showing you, your current usage and then what your max are, and then what your, when your license actually expires. For most people, that'll probably be, $20.99. So if I come into any of the service maps, you've always had the SLA reporting down here at the bottom. But one of the new things that we've added in here is the ability to actually go back in time. So now if I really wanted to see some previous month's data, then you have that ability within the portal itself. These are things, like I said before, were available within the extensions that were running through the SCOM console, and then through our older web console. They kind of got missed in the portal, but they're back again, and now they're there. So hopefully that'll help out a lot of people that have requested that feature to be in here. So now let's get on to some of the new widgets. So this is the fun part. I've already created a page that kind of details out some of those. So let me kind of move myself into an edit mode. So you'll notice that we have an alert summary and alert details. Alert summary is the exact same thing that the old SLO or the old alert listing used to do. It basically was a listing of objects and the number of alerts that are with that. The alert details now allows you to kind of scope that out and show a listing. So you obviously give it a title, the object type. If you want it for everything, then you can do logical entity. You can scope it to a group, the max number of results you're after. We automatically default it to a warning and an error severity, but then you can change the different severity levels that you're after. And then the resolution state. So if you have custom resolution states that you want to add in there, and then how far back you would like us to look, 1 week, 1 month, depending on how you're after there. When you're done, you basically have the listing. Now, this will follow the same rules as there is an alert columns view within the settings that you can add and remove columns. So this will add those columns in here also. And then you have the ability to filter out as you're looking at the list itself. So that's the alerts listing. There's also a SQL addition to this. So we always had the ability to look at a SQL table and pull SQL data from just about any SQL source as long as we could read it. Didn't have to be the SCOM database. But now we've had a few people that wanted to return a single value, and that was fine, except for you basically had a table and it was small. So now we've actually just kind of enlarged the number. So if you're returning a single value, we'll just blow it up as a much larger number. Now, one of the other parts that we've been missing for a while now has been a top N. So I've got a couple different ones with top N computer results. So I've done a top 5 for CPU. You can display these as 2 different forms. You can do it as a bar graph or a spark line. You come into an edit mode. So, the metrics are pretty basic. So you memory available, memory used, processor queue, just some of your basic kind of computer-related top performance counters. But then we have a top and advanced, and that's what this one is here. So it's a little bit more detailed in the way that we go through. You select the object type, and then based on the object type, you can go through and select the different metrics that you may be after. Obviously, if you're looking at something still computer-related, you may have to select several different items depending on what's in the group. You can select the whether you want it in a spark line or a bar graph. Again, the time span. The time span really only affects the spark line. Bar graph is obviously current data. Whether you want it to be the largest or smallest values, and then of course displaying the names. And then how many do you want to display? Top 5, top 10, top 15. It's really up to you. Let me save that real quick. So those are some of the new features we have. So we go through the home search. We have the out-of-the-box services, or the out-of-the-box themes that you can do. The difference in the home screen, the SLA reporting. Now the last part is actually in our authoring console. This is a group import. This wizard right here. So you're able to come through and just kind of go through and say where you'd like to save it, whether you want it in a diagram view or a list view. You can filter out. It's going to show you a listing of all of your different groups. So I can just select the one that I want to import. It tells me what I'm going to do. Oh, I know I'm missing one thing. Nope. So we'll go ahead and add that real quick. Now what it's going to do is it'll grab in, and that's the thing I thought I was missing because we changed this once or twice, and sorry about that. It'll add the group. Go ahead and add it as a view, and then from there we'll be able to display those objects. Now it'll also import in the objects itself, or it could import in the membership rule. So if your group is based off a membership rule, then we should automatically bring that over versus the other points. So I should be able to see my test import here. I can open it up, and you'll see that my group was actually based off of membership rules. So we go ahead and bring that forward to show that listing. Now, if you had explicit members, then we'll go ahead and import those in as explicit members. Now, I'll be able to see this directly in here. I should be able to by now, anyway. So let's come back here and go into my test import. Oh, well, it hasn't quite caught up yet, but sometimes SCOM is a little slow on that. But the view is created and will be there shortly. So that's basically the new features that we've gone through. So let's go back here.
I'd like to remind everybody as well that these presentations are available for download, and as well what we look to do is that we can sort of take any question that you have at this point in time, and as well what you can do is you can always get in contact with us for more detailed information. And essentially what we'd like everybody to do is to visit us for a trial of test and live maps. So what we'd like you to do is to go to www.savision.com/trial for a free trial. Here's our information with regards to contacting us. You can contact us at email at info@savision.com. We have a Twitter handle at @Savision. And at this point in time, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.